My son said, "We're canceling your birthday. We need the money for repairs on my wife's and my house." I nodded silently. A week later, they received a letter from a lawyer and, "I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end and let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. For 35 years, I lived in the same two-bedroom house on Maple Street. My late husband, Robert, and I had raised our son Michael there. After Robert passed 5 years ago, the house became both my sanctuary and my burden. The mortgage was paid off decades ago, but the place needed work. New roof, updated plumbing, things I'd been putting off on my modest pension. I wasn't wealthy, but I wasn't destitute either. Robert's life insurance and my savings gave me a cushion. I'd always been careful with money, always planned ahead. That's how I was raised during harder times. Michael was my only child. For years, our relationship had been adequate. He called every few weeks, visited on holidays. After he married Jennifer 3 years ago, the calls became less frequent. Jennifer was pleasant enough on the surface, always smiling, always asking how I was doing. But there was something calculated in her eyes, something that made me choose my words carefully around her. The first real warning sign came 6 months before my 70th birthday. Michael called, asking if I'd consider taking out a home equity loan. "Just to help us with a down payment, Mom. We'll pay you back." I'd said no, gently but firmly. The silence on the other end of the line had lasted too long. The second sign came when they started visiting more often. Every visit included a tour of my house, Jennifer pointing out everything that needed fixing. "This kitchen is so outdated, Margaret. You really should renovate. These hardwood floors are practically ruined." As if I didn't already know, as if I hadn't lived there for 3.5 decades. Then came my birthday week. I'd been planning a small celebration, nothing fancy, just dinner with a few friends from church and maybe Michael and Jennifer if they could make it. I'd even bought a new dress, pale blue, something that made me feel less invisible. 70 felt like a milestone worth acknowledging. My mother had died at 72. Every birthday after 65 felt like borrowed time. Michael and Jennifer arrived on Tuesday evening, unannounced. I was in the kitchen making tea when I heard their car in the driveway. My heart lifted. Maybe they'd come early to help with birthday preparations. But when they walked in, neither was smiling. "Mom, we need to talk." Michael's voice was flat. Jennifer stood behind him, arms crossed, that calculated look in her eyes sharper than usual. We sat in the living room. The evening light filtered through the curtains Robert had hung 20 years ago, casting long shadows across the carpet. "We're canceling your birthday celebration," Michael said. No preamble, no softness. I stared at him. "What?" "We need money for renovations on our house, major ones. The foundation has issues and we need to act fast." He wouldn't meet my eyes. "We were hoping you'd understand." "I don't see what that has to do with my birthday," I said slowly. Jennifer leaned forward. "Margaret, we need you to take out that home equity loan we discussed. 50,000 should cover it. We'll pay you back, obviously, but we need it now." The room felt smaller suddenly. $50,000. "And my birthday?" My voice sounded distant, even to my own ears. "We can't afford to waste money on celebrations right now," Jennifer said, her tone suggesting I was being selfish for even asking. "We're family. Family helps each other." Michael finally looked at me. "Mom, our house is literally falling apart. Your birthday is it's just one day. You'll have others." Would I, though? How many more birthdays did I have left? How many more chances to celebrate being alive? "We're canceling your birthday," Michael repeated, firmer this time. "We need money for repairs on our house. That's final." I sat there in the fading light, looking at my son, my only child, the boy I'd raised, the man Robert and I had sacrificed so much for, and I nodded. Just nodded. No tears, no arguments. What would be the point? They left 20 minutes later, satisfied they'd made their position clear. Jennifer had even patted my hand on the way out. You understand, don't you? Family first. After their car disappeared down Maple Street, I sat alone in the growing darkness. 70 years old. No celebration. No acknowledgement. Just a demand for $50,000. But as I sat there, something cold and clear crystallized in my mind. I'd spent my entire life being accommodating, being understanding, putting others first. Where had it gotten me? I picked up the phone and called my attorney. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the bed I'd shared with Robert for 30 years, staring at the ceiling, replaying every interaction with Michael and Jennifer over the past 3 years. How had I not seen it before? The pattern was so clear now. After Robert died, Michael had suggested I sell the house and move into a smaller apartment. Too much space for one person, Mom. I'd refused. This was my home, my memories. A month later, Jennifer had brought up the idea again, this time with specific apartment listings and calculated speeches about quality of life and easier maintenance. When I'd received a small inheritance from my sister last year, $15,000, Michael had called within days. How did he even know about it? Had I mentioned it? I couldn't remember. He'd needed money for their new car. I'd given them $5,000, hating myself for it even as I wrote the check. Every visit recently had included discussions about my valuable property and how I wasn't utilizing my assets properly. Jennifer had even brought a real estate agent to dinner once, just to chat. I'd been polite but firm. The agent never came back. Now they wanted $50,000, and they'd canceled my birthday to make their point. I got up at 5 in the morning, made coffee, and sat at my kitchen table with a legal pad Robert had left in his desk drawer. The sunlight was just beginning to touch the backyard where we'd planted rose bushes together, where Michael had learned to ride his bicycle. I wrote down every financial request they'd made over the past 3 years. The list was longer than I'd realized. Small amounts mostly, $500 here, $1,000 there. Just until payday, Mom. Emergency car repair, Mom. Unexpected medical bill, Mom. Repayment had been promised every time. Repayment had never come. Total, $23,750. $23,750, almost half of what they wanted now. I pulled out my bank statements, my retirement account information, my property deed. Robert and I had worked so hard for this. He'd been an accountant, careful and methodical. He'd made sure we'd be secure, and now our son wanted to drain it all for his house repairs. Why was their house more important than mine? Why was their financial emergency my responsibility? The anger that rose in me was cold and clear, not hot and chaotic. It felt like putting on armor. At 9 o'clock, I called James Morrison. He'd been Robert's attorney and friend, and he'd handled the estate after Robert passed. If anyone could help me navigate this, it was James. Margaret. His warm voice came through the phone. Good to hear from you. How are you? I need to update my will, I said. No small talk, no preamble. As soon as possible. There was a brief pause. Of course. Can you come by the office this afternoon? Say, 2 o'clock? I'll be there. I spent the rest of the morning going through photo albums. Michael as a baby, chubby and smiling. Michael's first day of school. Michael graduating high school, then college. Robert's hand on his shoulder, pride radiating from both of them. When had my son become someone I didn't recognize? Or had he always been this way, and I'd simply refused to see it? Had I made excuses for him his entire life, smoothed over his selfishness with maternal love and willful blindness? Jennifer had changed him, I'd wanted to believe. But maybe Jennifer had simply revealed what was already there. At 2 o'clock, I sat in James Morrison's oak-paneled office. He was 73, silver-haired, with Robert's same careful attention to detail. "Tell me what's going on, Margaret," he said gently. I told him everything: the requests for money, the pressure to take out loans, the canceled birthday. I watched his expression shift from concerned to troubled. "And you want to change your will because I need to protect myself," I said. "And I need them to understand that I'm not a bank account. I'm their mother." "What did you have in mind?" I'd been thinking about this all morning, turning possibilities over in my mind like stones in a river, looking for the one that would make the right impact. "I want to set up a trust," I said slowly. "One that can't be accessed until certain conditions are met. And I want to make it very clear that any future inheritance is conditional on their behavior toward me now." James leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. "That's a significant step. They want $50,000 for house repairs. They canceled my birthday to demand it. I think significant steps are warranted." "Let me draft something," he said. "We'll need to be very specific about the conditions. And, Margaret, you might want to consider what message you want to send them." "I want to send the message that I'm not dead yet," I said, "and my life still has value." "Then let's make sure that message is received loud and clear." We spent 2 hours going over details. By the time I left his office, my first plan was in motion. It felt like taking control of a ship that had been drifting toward rocks. I was the captain now. James Morrison worked quickly. Within a week, I received a call asking me to return to his office to sign the new documents. But he had something else to show me first. "Margaret, before we finalize everything, I think you should see this." He slid a folder across his mahogany desk. "I did some research into your son's financial situation. You mentioned his house needs repairs?" I nodded, curious despite myself. "I have a friend who works in the county assessor's office. Michael and Jennifer's house was inspected 6 months ago as part of their refinancing application." He opened the folder. "There are no foundation issues, no structural problems at all. The house is in excellent condition." The words took a moment to penetrate. "What? They lied to you?" James's voice was gentle but firm. "There's more. They took out a second mortgage 3 months ago. $75,000. The loan officer is someone I know. He mentioned they were planning a major renovation: granite countertops, luxury bathroom, new deck." I stared at the inspection report, the official stamps and signatures blurring. They'd lied, completely fabricated an emergency to extract money from me. My birthday hadn't been canceled because of a crisis. It had been canceled because they wanted to renovate their kitchen. "They wanted my money for granite countertops," I said aloud, hearing how absurd it sounded. "I'm afraid so." The cold anger I'd felt before turned to ice in my veins. This wasn't a son struggling to keep his home safe. This was pure greed dressed up as family obligation. "Finish the documents," I said. "Everything we discussed. And James? I want to send them a letter." "What kind of letter?" "The kind that makes them realize I know what they're doing." We spent another hour finalizing the trust, the new will, and the letter. James would send it from his office, official, on law firm letterhead, impossible to ignore or dismiss. The letter was simple and devastating. "Dear Michael and Jennifer, this letter is to inform you that I have made significant changes to my estate planning. After careful consideration and legal consultation, I have established a trust that will govern the distribution of my assets upon my passing. I have also become aware of certain discrepancies regarding your stated need for emergency home repairs. Official inspection records indicate no such emergency exists. Effective immediately, I will not be providing financial assistance for any purpose. My assets will be managed according to my wishes with the help of my attorney. I hope you understand that trust, once broken, is difficult to restore. Sincerely, Margaret." James mailed the letter on a Friday. I spent the weekend in a strange state of calm. I walked through my neighborhood, noticing things I hadn't paid attention to in years. Mrs. Chen's garden had new roses. The Johnsons had painted their shutters blue. The world continued, regardless of family drama. Michael called on Monday morning. I let it go to voicemail. Mom, what the hell is this? What letter? What trust? You can't just... We need to talk about this. Call me back immediately. Jennifer called an hour later, her voice syrupy with false concern. Margaret, honey, I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding. Can we come over tonight? We really need to clear this up. I didn't return either call. On Tuesday, they showed up at my house. I watched through the window as they parked and approached my door. Jennifer was carrying a bouquet of flowers. Michael's jaw was tight, his movements sharp with barely controlled anger. The doorbell rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Then knocking. Mom, we know you're in there. Open the door. I stood in my living room 5 feet from the door and did nothing. Let them feel what it was like to be ignored. Let them stand on the porch, uncertain and powerless. This is ridiculous. Jennifer's voice sharp now, the sweetness gone. We're your family. Mom, if you don't open this door right now, you're going to regret it. Threats already. How quickly the mask slipped. They stayed for 20 minutes, alternating between knocking, calling my phone, and shouting through the door. I sat on my couch, drinking tea, listening to them unravel. Finally, they left. That evening, I received a text from Michael. We'll give you time to calm down, but you're making a huge mistake. Family doesn't treat each other this way. I typed back. I agree. Family doesn't lie about emergencies to steal from their elderly parents. I blocked both their numbers after that. The next morning, James called. They've been trying to reach me, demanding to know the terms of your new will. I told them it's none of their business. How did they react? Let's just say I've heard some colorful language in my career, but Jennifer has a particularly creative vocabulary. He paused. Margaret, they're going to escalate. People like this don't accept boundaries easily. I know, I said, but I'm ready. I wasn't sure if that was true, but saying it made it feel more possible. The first official step had been taken. The message had been sent. There was no turning back now. The next phase of my plan required something I'd avoided my entire life: public documentation. James had suggested it. If they escalate, and they will, you need a paper trail. Everything documented. I started a journal, writing down every interaction, every phone call, every threat. Dates, times, exact words when I could remember them. James had given me a small recording device. For your protection, he'd said. If they show up again, record everything. Pennsylvania is a 2-party consent state, but if they're on your property making threats, you have a right to document it. I also opened a new bank account at a different bank, transferred most of my savings. If they somehow tried to access my old account, and I no longer trusted them not to try, they'd find nearly empty. On Thursday, 2 weeks after the letter, I implemented the next step. I drove to Riverside Senior Community Center, a place I'd always avoided because it felt like admitting I was old. But now I saw it differently. Not as a waiting room for death, but as a resource. I signed up for 3 activities: a book club, a watercolor class, and a weekly coffee social. I needed community, witnesses, people who could testify to my mental competence if Michael and Jennifer tried to claim I was senile or incompetent. Mrs. Dorothy Patterson, who ran the coffee social, welcomed me warmly. First time here? Yes, my birthday was recently, and I decided it was time to invest in myself. Good for you, dear. You'll find we're a lively bunch. I hadn't realized how isolated I'd become, How much of my social life had revolved around waiting for Michael's calls, making myself available for his convenience. That evening, Michael and Jennifer returned. This time, I was ready. They rang the doorbell at 7 o'clock. I checked the recording device in my pocket, took a breath, and opened the door. Finally, Jennifer pushed past me into the house. Do you have any idea how worried we've been? I doubt that, I said calmly. Michael followed her in, his face red. Mom, what's going on? This lawyer, these letters, blocking our numbers, have you lost your mind? My mind is perfectly clear. Then why are you acting insane? Jennifer demanded. We're your family. Your only family. Family doesn't lie about emergencies to steal money. Steal? Michael's voice rose. We're not stealing. We're asking for help. There's a difference. Is there? You lied about your foundation. You've taken over $23,000 in the past 3 years and never repaid a cent. You canceled my birthday to pressure me into giving you $50,000 more. My voice was steady, cold. What would you call it? Investment, Jennifer snapped. We would have paid you back. With what? The second mortgage you took out 3 months ago? The one you spent on granite countertops? The silence was profound. Michael's face went from red to white. Jennifer's mouth opened and closed. How did you... Michael started. I have an attorney, a good one. Who does his research? Jennifer recovered first. Fine. So, we wanted to improve our house. Is that a crime? You have this huge property, all this equity, and you're sitting on it like a dragon hoarding gold. We're your son. We deserve. You deserve nothing, I interrupted. I owe you nothing. I raised you, fed you, put you through college. My obligation ended when you became an adult. That's not how family works, Michael shouted. You're right. Family doesn't cancel birthdays. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't threaten. I pulled out my phone, opened the recording app. And family doesn't come into someone's home and bully them, which is what you're doing right now. On record. Michael lunged forward, trying to grab the phone. I stepped back, holding it away. Touch me and I'll call the police, I said. Try me. He froze. Jennifer grabbed his arm. Michael, let's go. She's clearly not in her right mind. We'll figure something else out. Oh, I'm perfectly sound, I said. Sound enough to know when I'm being manipulated. Sound enough to protect myself. Sound enough to change my will. You wouldn't, Michael whispered. I already have. Everything goes to charity now. The house, the savings, all of it. You get nothing. It was a slight exaggeration. The will was more nuanced than that, but I wanted to see their reaction. Jennifer's face contorted. You spiteful old bitch. Get out of my house. This isn't over, Michael hissed. You think you can just cut us off? We'll fight this. We'll prove you're incompetent. With what evidence? My new activities at the senior center? My clear financial records? My attorney who will testify I'm making rational decisions? I moved toward the door, opened it. Leave. Now. They left, Jennifer spitting curses as they went. I closed the door, locked it, and added the deadbolt. Then I sat down and shook for 10 minutes. But I'd done it. I'd stood up to them. They'd shown their true faces, the threats, the insults, the grabbing. All recorded, all documented. I took the next 3 days off from everything. I needed to recover, to let my nervous system settle. I painted watercolors at the senior center, terrible amateur blobs of color that somehow made me feel better. I read mysteries in my garden. I called my old friend Patricia, whom I hadn't spoken to in months, and told her everything. About damn time, Patricia said. I never liked that boy. For the first time in weeks, I laughed. The attempted manipulation began with flowers. A massive arrangement arrived Monday morning. Roses, lilies, expensive and ostentatious. The card read, "Mom, we're so sorry. We love you. Can we start over?" Michael and Jennifer. I gave the flowers to Mrs. Chen next door. Tuesday brought a letter, handwritten by Michael. Long, rambling, full of childhood memories and proclamations of love. Remember when you stayed up all night when I had pneumonia? Remember how you always believed in me? I'm still that little boy who needs his mom. I filed it in my folder of evidence. Wednesday, Jennifer called from a different number. I answered before I realized. "Margaret, please don't hang up." Her voice was soft, trembling. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I was stressed about the house and I took it out on you. That was wrong." I said nothing. "Michael is devastated. He barely sleeps. He keeps looking at old photos of you and him. He feels like he's lost his mother. He lied to his mother, repeatedly." I know, and that was mostly my fault. I pushed him. I was the one who wanted the renovations. He was just trying to make me happy." A sob. "I'm the villain here, not him. Please don't punish him for my mistakes." It was a sophisticated attempt. Separate herself from Michael, make herself the scapegoat, play on my maternal instincts, admit to smaller sins to hide larger ones. "Jennifer, this conversation is over. Wait, what if we paid you back? The $23,000, we could set up a payment plan." "With what money?" We could take out another loan, or I could get a second job. Whatever it takes to make this right. You're offering to go into more debt to repay money you should never have taken in the first place?" "Yes, if that's what you need. What I need is for you to leave me alone." I hung up and blocked that number too. But the exchange left me unsettled. Were they genuinely remorseful? Or was this just another manipulation? That afternoon, at the Senior Center's book club, I found myself telling the story. Not the details, but the outline. A family conflict, money issues, difficult boundaries. Dorothy Patterson listened carefully. "How old is your son?" 43. 43 years old, and he's demanding money from his 70-year-old mother? She shook her head. "Honey, you know what that is? That's financial elder abuse. It has a name. It's illegal." The words hit me hard. Financial elder abuse. I'd been thinking of it as family drama, a personal failure, a private shame. But it was abuse. Criminal abuse. "You should report it," said another woman, Grace, who was 82 with ice blue eyes and steel gray hair. "My daughter tried something similar. I reported her to Adult Protective Services. Best decision I ever made. I don't want to get him in trouble," I said automatically. "Why not?" Grace asked bluntly. "He's trying to impoverish you. He canceled your birthday. He lied to you, bullied you, called you names. Where's his concern about getting you in trouble? Where's his protection of you?" The question was rhetorical, but it resonated. Why was I still protecting him? What loyalty did I owe to someone who'd shown me none? "They might come back," Dorothy said. "These types always do. When flowers and tears don't work, they escalate again. You need support. Real support." She gave me the number for a local elder advocacy group. "Call them. Talk to someone who understands this. You're not alone, Margaret." I called that evening. The counselor, a woman named Lisa, listened to my story without judgment. "You're doing everything right," she said. "Documentation, legal protection, building a support network. But I want you to be prepared. People who engage in financial exploitation don't stop easily. They'll try guilt, they'll try anger, they'll try everything in between." "I know. Do you have a safety plan?" "A safety plan?" "If they show up again, if things get physical, if you feel threatened, do you know what to do?" I hadn't thought that far ahead. "Call the police?" "Yes, and I want you to have our crisis line programmed into your phone. And tell your neighbors what's happening. The more people who know, the safer you are. I spent that evening talking to Mrs. Chen and the Johnsons. Both couples promised to keep an eye out, to call the police if they saw any disturbances at my house. I knew something was wrong, Mrs. Chen said. Your son and his wife always looked at your house like wolves look at sheep. The metaphor was uncomfortably accurate. Friday evening, I sat in my garden as the sun set, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Not happiness, not yet, but peace. The kind that comes from knowing you're on solid ground. Michael and Jennifer would try again. I knew that. But I was no longer alone. I had witnesses, allies, documentation, and most importantly, I had clarity. I was 70 years old. I had survived poverty, marriage, childbirth, widowhood. I had endured decades of work, struggle, compromise. I could endure this too. They came back 2 weeks later, on a Sunday morning. I was in my garden, wearing Robert's old gardening gloves, when I heard the car. My stomach tightened, but I didn't move. Let them come to me. Michael walked through the side gate first, hands in pockets, casual. Jennifer followed, wearing a dress I'd never seen. Modest, conservative, the kind you'd wear to church. Armor, I realized. They were wearing armor. Mom, Michael said softly. Beautiful morning. It was. Can we talk, please? He gestured to the patio furniture. Just talk, no fighting. I considered refusing, but curiosity won. I wanted to see what approach they'd try this time. I set down my trowel and sat. They sat across from me, Michael leaning forward earnestly, Jennifer with her hands folded in her lap. We've been doing a lot of thinking, Michael began, about everything, about how we've acted, about what we've put you through. I waited. We were wrong, Jennifer said, her voice soft. We got caught up in our own problems, our own desires, and we forgot what's really important. Family, love, respect. We want to make things right, Michael continued. We want to rebuild your trust. How? I asked flatly. However you need us to. Michael's eyes were earnest, sincere. He'd always been good at sincerity. As a child, he could lie about breaking a vase or stealing cookies and make you believe him completely. We could start by paying you back, or we could just start over, forget the money, just be a family again. Forget $23,000? If that's what it takes. He spread his hands. Money isn't worth losing you over. That's very convenient, I said. Now that you know you won't get more. Jennifer flinched. That's not fair. Isn't it? Mom. Michael's voice took on a pained quality. I know I've made mistakes, but I'm your son, your only son. Dad's gone. I'm all you have left. There it was. The real manipulation. The loneliness card. The implicit threat. Reject us, and you'll die alone. I have friends, I said. I have a community. I don't need you to avoid loneliness. But we're your blood. Jennifer leaned forward. Margaret, I lost my mother 3 years ago. I know what it's like to lose that bond. Don't throw away what you have with Michael. You'll regret it. The way you regretted lying to me about your foundation? Her face hardened for a microsecond before the softness returned. I apologized for that. No, you tried to blame it on stress. That's not an apology. Michael stood abruptly, pacing. What do you want from us? You want us to grovel? You want us to beg? We're here, Mom. We're trying. But you're being so cold, so unforgiving. Where's the woman who used to tell me everyone deserves second chances? I gave you second chances, and third chances, and 20th chances. At some point, chances run out. So that's it? His voice rose. You're just going to cut us off forever? Over money? Over lies? Over manipulation? Over the fundamental disrespect of canceling my birthday to demand $50,000 for granite countertops? Jennifer stood too, her mask cracking further. You know what? Maybe you're not the victim here. Maybe you're a selfish old woman who's so bitter about getting older that you're taking it out on the people who love you. Jennifer, Michael started. No. She cut him off, her face flushing. I'm done pretending. She's sitting in this big house hoarding her money while we're struggling. We have a right to expect help from family. That's what family does. Family doesn't lie about emergencies, I said calmly. It wasn't a lie. We needed that money. For luxuries, not emergencies, there's a difference. You're impossible. Jennifer's voice climbed higher. We came here to make peace, and you're throwing it back in our faces. You came here to manipulate me into backing down, I corrected. Different thing. Michael grabbed Jennifer's arm. Let's go. This isn't working. You're damn right it's not working. Jennifer jerked away from him, turning to me with pure venom. You're a miserable, vindictive old bitch, and you're going to die alone in this house. And when you do, we're going to sell it for every penny and use the money however we want. You'll be nothing but a photograph on a wall. Jennifer! Michael looked genuinely shocked, but she wasn't done. You think you're so smart with your lawyer and your little recordings? You're just a sad old woman playing games because you have nothing else in your life. No husband, no purpose, no value. The words should have hurt. Maybe they would have, a month ago. But now, they just confirmed everything I'd already known. Jennifer wasn't sorry. She wasn't trying to reconcile. She was trying to win. Get off my property, I said quietly. Both of you. Gladly. Jennifer stormed toward the gate. Michael lingered, his face twisted with something between anger and desperation. Mom, please. Don't let her ruin this. I still want. You stood there while your wife called me a vindictive old bitch and told me I'll die alone, I interrupted. You want to fix our relationship? Start by growing a spine. He stared at me for a long moment, then turned and followed Jennifer. I sat in my garden for a long time after they left, Robert's gloves still on my hands. My heart was pounding, adrenaline making my fingers shake. Fear tried to creep in. What if they did try to have me declared incompetent? What if they contested the will? What if they made my life hell? But underneath the fear was something stronger, determination, righteousness, relief even, because now I knew without any doubt that I'd made the right choice. Jennifer's mask had fully cracked, and Michael had shown he'd always choose her over me. I wasn't losing a son. I'd lost him years ago. I was just finally acknowledging it. The fear remained, but it fed my resolve rather than weakening it. They'd shown their hand. They'd revealed their strategy, and I'd held firm. I was ready for whatever came next. The final confrontation came in the least expected place, James Morrison's office. 3 weeks after the garden incident, I received a formal letter requesting my presence at a meeting to discuss concerns about Margaret Foster's mental competency and financial decision-making. The letter was from an attorney I'd never heard of, Richard Holbrook, representing Michael and Jennifer Foster. They're trying to have you declared incompetent, James explained when I called him. It's a common tactic in elder financial abuse cases. If they can prove you're not of sound mind, they can challenge the will and possibly gain power of attorney. Can they do that? They can try. But Margaret, you've done everything right. Your documentation is impeccable. Your social activities prove engagement. Your financial decisions are all rational and well documented. He paused. I want you at this meeting. I want you to face them directly. Show them exactly how competent you are. The meeting was scheduled for Thursday afternoon. James had insisted on neutral ground, a conference room he rented in a downtown office building. Michael, Jennifer, and their attorney would be there. James wanted me to bring evidence, witnesses if possible. I brought Dorothy Patterson and Lisa from the Elder Advocacy Group. Both had readily agreed. "We've seen this before," Lisa said. "They need to see you're not isolated or vulnerable." Thursday arrived cold and gray. I dressed carefully. A navy suit Robert had always liked, sensible shoes, minimal jewelry. I wanted to look competent, composed, undeniably aware. The conference room was sterile and modern. Glass table, uncomfortable chairs, the faint hum of fluorescent lights. Michael and Jennifer were already there with a man in an expensive suit who must have been Holbrook. He was younger than I expected, maybe 45, with slicked back hair and an expression of professional sympathy. "Mrs. Foster, thank you for coming." Holbrook stood, extending his hand. I didn't take it. "Let's be clear," I said, sitting down. "I'm here because my attorney advised it, not because I recognize any validity to your concerns." Michael looked uncomfortable. Jennifer looked furious. Good. James sat beside me, Dorothy and Lisa on my other side. The power dynamic was already shifting. I'd brought an army. Holbrook opened a folder. "Mrs. Foster, your son and daughter-in-law have expressed serious concerns about your recent behavior. Sudden changes to your will, cutting off family members, accusations of dishonesty." "Not accusations," I interrupted. "Facts, documented facts." "Perhaps we can let Mrs. Foster explain her perspective," James suggested mildly. "Yes, let's." I pulled out my own folder, much thicker than Holbrook's. Let's start with the lie about foundation repairs. Official inspection records show Michael and Jennifer's house has no structural problems. 0. This document, I slid it across the table, is from the county assessor's office. This one is from their mortgage company. This one is a receipt from their granite countertop installation, dated 3 days after they claimed to need emergency funds. Holbrook frowned, looking at Michael. "You told me there were foundation issues." There are, Michael stammered. "Which is it?" I asked coldly. "Were or are? Because the inspection 6 months ago found nothing. The inspection last month found nothing. Your contractor, according to this receipt, did cosmetic renovations, not emergency repairs." "We were told there might be problems," Jennifer interjected. "We were being proactive." By lying to me, by canceling my birthday to pressure me, by taking $23,000 over 3 years and never repaying a cent? I slid more documents across. Bank records, text messages, emails, all documented. "Mrs. Foster," Holbrook said carefully, "perhaps your son was simply trying to steal from me," I finished. "Because that's what financial elder abuse is. It's theft." "That's a serious accusation," Holbrook warned. "It's a legal term." Lisa spoke up for the first time. "Financial exploitation of an elderly person. I work for Elder Advocacy Services. We see cases like this weekly. This one is particularly clear-cut." "Who are you?" Jennifer snapped. "I'm a witness to Mrs. Foster's mental competency and a professional consultant on elder abuse. I've reviewed her case. Her decisions are rational, well-documented, and legally sound. She's protecting herself from family members who have demonstrated a pattern of financial manipulation." "This is ridiculous!" Michael exploded. "She's my mother. I love her." "Then why did your wife call her a vindictive old bitch?" I asked calmly. "Why did she say I'd die alone and you'd sell my house for every penny? I have that recorded, by the way." Silence. You recorded us?" Michael's voice was weak. "In my own garden. On my own property. After you'd already demonstrated threatening behavior." I looked at Holbrook. "I've been documenting everything, every conversation, every threat, every lie. Your clients have been caught in lie after lie, and now they're trying to have me declared incompetent because I won't let them steal from me anymore. She's not incompetent, Dorothy added. She attends book club, takes art classes, manages her finances, maintains her property. I've known her for several weeks now, and she's sharper than most 40-year-olds. Holbrook looked between his clients and me, and I could see him recalculating. This wasn't a confused elderly woman. This was an organized, articulate, thoroughly documented case. Mr. Holbrook, James said quietly, I think you've been given inaccurate information about your client's mother. The question isn't Mrs. Foster's competency. The question is whether your clients have engaged in financial elder abuse, which, based on this evidence, they clearly have. We never, Jennifer started. You lied about emergencies to extract money, I cut her off. You canceled my birthday as a manipulation tactic. You threatened me. You called me names. You tried to isolate me. You told me I was worthless without you. My voice was ice. Every single thing you've done fits the legal definition of elder abuse. And now you're trying to use the legal system to continue that abuse by having me declared incompetent. Mom, please, Michael's voice cracked. This wasn't supposed to. We didn't mean. You meant exactly this, I said. You wanted my money. When I wouldn't give it, you tried force. When force didn't work, you tried this. But I'm not incompetent. I'm not confused. I'm not the problem here. You are. The defeat on their faces was absolute. Richard Holbrook closed his folder slowly. The conference room felt smaller suddenly, the air heavy with unspoken defeat. Mr. and Mrs. Foster, he said carefully, I think we need to discuss this privately. No. Jennifer's voice was desperate. No, we're not giving up. She's manipulating you. Can't you see? She's turned everyone against us. Mrs. Foster, Holbrook said to Jennifer, his tone now professional and distant. Based on the evidence presented, I cannot in good conscience proceed with a competency hearing. Your mother-in-law has demonstrated clear mental acuity, thorough documentation, and legitimate grievances. Continuing would be frivolous and potentially expose you to countersuit. Countersuit? Michael's voice cracked. James leaned forward. Financial elder abuse is both a civil and criminal matter in Pennsylvania. Mrs. Foster could press charges. She could sue for the return of all funds fraudulently obtained. She could seek a restraining order, and given the documented pattern of behavior, she'd likely win on all counts. You wouldn't, Jennifer whispered, looking at me. You wouldn't put your own son in jail. I met her eyes. Try me. The silence stretched. Michael's face had gone gray. Jennifer looked physically ill. However, James continued, Mrs. Foster is willing to offer terms. This was the part we'd planned. Not mercy, I was long past mercy, but strategic resolution. Dragging this through courts would be expensive, time-consuming, and emotionally exhausting. I wanted it finished. You will sign a legally binding agreement, I said. First, you acknowledge in writing the $23,750 you've taken. Second, you agree to repay it over 10 years at reasonable interest. Third, you agree to zero contact with me unless I initiate it. Fourth, you relinquish any claim to my estate now or in the future. That's insane, Jennifer hissed. The alternative, James said mildly, is criminal charges and a civil suit that would likely result in wage garnishment, property liens, and a public trial where all of this becomes a matter of public record. Your choice. Michael slumped in his chair. We can't pay back $23,000. You'll pay $200 a month for 10 years. It's manageable if you give up your luxury spending. I slid the repayment schedule across the table. Consider it a very expensive lesson. And if we refuse, Jennifer demanded, then I press charges tomorrow, and I pursue every legal avenue available. Elder abuse, fraud, Harassment. I'll make it my mission to ensure everyone knows exactly what you did. You'd destroy your own son? Michael's voice was hollow. You tried to destroy me first, I said simply. I'm just defending myself. Holbrook looked at his clients. I strongly advise you to accept these terms. The fight drained from Jennifer's face. She looked at Michael, who looked at the table. We need to talk privately, Michael finally said. They left the room with Holbrook. James, Dorothy, Lisa, and I sat in silence. You're sure about this? Dorothy asked gently. Absolutely. They returned 20 minutes later. Michael wouldn't look at me. Jennifer's eyes were red but dry. We'll sign, Michael said quietly. The paperwork took an hour. Multiple documents, the repayment agreement, the contact restriction, the estate waiver. Holbrook reviewed every clause with his clients, making sure they understood. James did the same with me, though I'd already memorized every word. When the signatures were complete, I stood. I hope you learned something from this. Learn what? Jennifer's voice was bitter. That family means nothing. That greed has consequences. That manipulation eventually fails. That I'm not as weak as you thought. I picked up my folder. You gambled on my love, making me vulnerable. You lost. Mom, Michael started. Don't. I held up my hand. You made your choices. You chose granite countertops over your mother's birthday. You chose lies over honesty. You chose Jennifer's greed over basic decency. Those were your choices, Michael. Now live with them. I walked out without looking back, Dorothy and Lisa flanking me like an honor guard. In the parking garage, I finally let myself shake. Dorothy put her arm around my shoulders. You did it, she said. It's over. Is it? I asked. Really over? The legal part is, Lisa assured me. They signed. They're bound. And if they violate the contact order, you have immediate legal recourse. James joined us. Margaret, you should know. Holbrook told me privately that he's dropping them as clients. He said they lied to him repeatedly. They're on their own now if they try anything else. That final piece clicked into place. They'd lost their attorney. They'd lost their credibility. They'd lost access to me. They'd lost their inheritance. They'd lost everything they'd been fighting for. And I had won. Not just legally, but morally, emotionally, completely. I'd protected myself, maintained my dignity, and proven that elder abuse wouldn't be tolerated. Driving home, I passed their house, the house with the granite countertops and the lies. I didn't slow down. My house, my real home with its memories and its roses and its paid-off mortgage, waited for me on Maple Street. My house, my life, my terms. For the first time in months, I felt free. 6 months after the settlement, I celebrated my 71st birthday properly. The celebration took place at Riverside Senior Community Center. Dorothy, Grace, and 20 other friends sang Happy Birthday, while Patricia presented a homemade chocolate cake with 71 candles. Don't burn the place down, Grace joked. I made a wish, just gratitude, and blew out the candles. Everyone cheered. This birthday had everything my 70th should have had: love, laughter, community, acknowledgement. My life had transformed. The watercolor class led to my paintings being displayed in a local coffee shop. The book club introduced me to new authors. I'd started volunteering at the library, reading to children on Tuesday mornings. You're glowing, Patricia said that evening. I haven't seen you this happy in years. I feel happy, I admitted. The monthly payments from Michael and Jennifer, $200 deposited electronically, went straight into savings. Eventually, I'd donate it to elder advocacy services. I'd finally done the repairs I'd been putting off. New roof, updated bathroom, fresh paint. My retirement savings, no longer threatened, funded these improvements comfortably. I'd even adopted a cat from the shelter, a gray tabby named Oliver. Life was genuinely good. Meanwhile, Michael and Jennifer's life was falling apart. Mrs. Chen's daughter mentioned Jennifer had been fired from the hospital for medication discrepancies. Grace's sons said their house was in pre-foreclosure. They couldn't refinance the second mortgage. Patricia's nephew mentioned a divorce filing. Fighting over debts mostly, not much property to divide. Their marriage, built on shared greed, was crumbling under failure. Part of me felt sad for Michael, but he'd made his choices. 7 months after the settlement, I saw Jennifer at the grocery store. She looked awful, thinner, gray-faced, dark circles under her eyes. "Margaret," she said flatly. "Jennifer." "Wait, please." Her voice cracked. "I'm sorry for everything. I was wrong." I studied her face. I saw only exhaustion and defeat. "I accept your apology," I said quietly, "but it doesn't change anything." "I know." She laughed bitterly. "Michael and I are separating. The house is gone. My job is gone. Everything we wanted, gone. You fought for the wrong things. I know that now." She looked at her cart, ramen noodles, generic cereal. "I was greedy. I convinced Michael that we deserved more, that you owed us. I was wrong." "Yes, you were. Are you happy now?" "Yes," I said honestly. "I am." She nodded slowly. "Good. Someone should be." I walked away, leaving her among the discount pasta and her regrets. Driving home, I realized I felt lighter. Her apology provided closure. That evening, Oliver curled in my lap while I read. Patricia called to chat. Dorothy texted about book club. My life was full, not of what I'd lost, but of what I'd gained. Freedom, dignity, community, self-respect. Michael and Jennifer had lost everything chasing money. I'd gained everything by refusing to let them take it. Looking back now, I understand the most important lesson. Your worth isn't determined by what you give others. It's inherent, undeniable, yours alone. I was 70 years old when my son tried to erase my value. I proved him wrong. Family isn't an excuse for abuse. Love isn't a weapon. Age doesn't equal vulnerability. If someone treats your boundaries as obstacles and your money as their right, they're not family. They're predators. I chose myself. It saved my life. What would you have done? Would you have stayed silent, kept sacrificing, hoped they'd change? Or would you have fought back? Share your story in the comments. You're not alone in this fight. Thank you for listening. Remember, it's never too late to value yourself.